picking pattern is taking usually 3 strings and just alternating between the 3. So if I was taking 4th string, 3rd string, 2nd string, I'd be starting on the 4th string, or starting on the 4th string and going 4th, 3rd, 2nd. So creating this rolling sound with the usually 3 strings, and it kind of sounds like a banjo roll. I think, to me, I also play 3-finger banjo, which might be why I'm so drawn to this style. I really like the sound of it, and so you're usually playing those 3 strings, and so because you're letting the strings ring out over each other, you usually have some sort of chord shape held down when you do the cross picking. So for this East Virginia blues, we're going to be playing out of a C shape. So the first thing to do is just get comfortable with that cross-picking pattern. And since this is a pattern of 3, so we have 3 notes over a measure. In this instance, we're playing in 4/4. You can actually round out the cross-picking pattern to fit squarely in a 4/4 measure, just by going through the pattern of 3 twice and then adding 2 more notes on the end. So now we have 8 eighth notes. So we're going to go. So we have 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 4th, 2nd, and then starting over. Down, there's a couple different ways you can approach the pick direction. I like to just do an alternating pick direction all the way through, which would be down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, and then starting over. But the other way some people like to do it is breaking the alternating pick direction, where you're playing a down pick on all the down beats, and then on off beats you're playing an up pick, like. And so the other cross-picking patterns, and people break that and just go down, down, up, down, down, up, down, up. So you can play those two, feel which feels more comfortable to you, which you can kind of play faster and more accurately with. And I think everyone's different. They also have different sounds, so you might want to get comfortable with both, so you can choose, depending on the song, which sound you like better. To me, the alternating has a little more defined sound to each note. The notes kind of stick out more on their own, and the down, down, up pattern sounds a bit smoother. So here's the alternating one more time. And then here's the down, down, up. Those are the 2 patterns. You can just kind of play around with them, get comfortable with both of them, and then decide which you like to use better. But for East Virginia blues, the first thing we're going to start off with is just learning the melody. So I'll sing a verse of this. So you can just hear the melody, and then we're going to learn the melody on guitar and then try to fit the cross-picking pattern around it. And when you are playing a cross-picking pattern with a melody, a lot of times what it does is offset the melody notes, so they're a little bit more anticipated or syncopated, instead of just having the melody notes land right on the downbeats where they might normally if you're just flat picking. I was born in East Virginia, North Carolina. Finding the melody on the guitar. Now we're not going to add in the cross picking yet, but just find the melody and fill in the melody with just strums for now, so we can hear just the basic melody. was changing chords with the song as it changes chords, and just playing a really basic melody. And in between the melody lines, where there was a gap, I was strumming those chords. So that's a really good first step, just before, if you've never done cross-picking before, just getting comfortable with playing the melody and holding down those chord shapes around it, because that's what you're going to need to do when you start cross-picking, is hold those chord shapes so you can get those chord tones to ring with your cross-picking pattern. So then I'll play the melody now, and instead of strumming, I'm going to add in cross-picking to fill in those spaces. So this is a really nice alternative to just strumming during your solos to fill in the spaces, or maybe playing fill licks. The other thing you can do is just add in cross-picking in between, which I think, especially for like a really pretty sounding song like this, it's a really nice technique to use. So a rest stroke in bluegrass is, how I learned it was when you hit the string with your pick on a downstroke, instead of having the pick come away from the string like this. I don't know if you can see that, but my pick is hitting the string and then coming up away from the string, which it kind of normally does when I'm playing, especially eighth notes. It's kind of just kind of coming up a little bit away from the string. But a rest stroke, when you play the string with a downstroke, instead of coming away from the string out like that, it's actually going down towards the floor and resting on the next string down. I don't know if that's why it's called a rest stroke, but that kind of helps me remember it. But if you hear the difference there, rest stroke, it's a different tone. It sounds a lot fatter and a lot louder. So a lot of times, especially in rhythm playing, when you're playing a bass run or a G run with a lot of downstrokes in a row, in order to cut through the band, in a bluegrass band, you'll hear people playing rest strokes a lot. So if I'm playing a G run, those last two downstrokes, I'm always going to do a rest stroke on those just to make it really pop out through the band. And usually with rest strokes, you'll use those when you're playing a bunch of downstrokes in a row. So if I was going to play eighth notes, where I have down, up, down, up, down, up, it becomes a lot harder to do a rest stroke. I don't really use rest strokes. I might do like a tiny rest stroke if I'm playing eighth notes, but usually when I think of a rest stroke, it's when you're playing a lot of downstrokes in a row. And I usually use that with rhythm playing, but even with leads sometimes on like a slower song, like the song Carter's Blues. That song, the melody, it works well with a lot of downstrokes, and you can do rest strokes with that to really create this big booming sound on the guitar. It's more commonly played on the banjo. You hear clawhammer banjo playing in old-time music a lot, and I remember as a teenager I was getting into old-time music, and I was listening to a lot of Gillian Welch as well, who plays clawhammer banjo on some of her songs, and so I started learning the style on banjo, and then I was teaching at a music camp in California where I grew up, and there's a guy named Michael Stadler teaching a class on clawhammer guitar that I went to, and I'd never heard of playing this style on guitar before that, but I thought it was really cool, and he showed me the tuning that I still use a lot with clawhammer guitar, which is it's similar to a banjo tuning. It's an open G tuning, but instead of the B note, which is the third of the G chord, you tune the B string on guitar up to C, which sometimes banjo players will do on the banjo as well. They have their standard tuning is an open G, but they'll tune the B string up to a C, and I've heard that called mountain minor tuning because it makes it sound kind of modally. There's no major third or minor third, so you can make it sound kind of bluesy or make it sound minor or major. So you tune the E string, the low E string down to D, you tune the A string down to G. These two, fourth string, third string are the same as standard tuning. You tune the B string up to C, which is the only string you tune up, and then you tune the high E string down to D. that. It kind of has this modal sound to it. And then the basic clawhammer technique that most people, it's the first pattern they learn on clawhammer, is called the bum-ditty. So first you start with, make your hand kind of into like, it looks like a claw, but try to keep your hand really loose. And then for me, people have different methods of playing clawhammer, but I usually use my index, mostly my index fingernail and sometimes the middle fingernail as well to hit the strings with a downstroke. So you have, and then as you're hitting those strings down, so your whole hand is kind of coming at an angle to the guitar, going down, your thumb catches on one of the lower strings. So on banjo, the fifth string is a high drone, the high fifth string, but on the guitar, obviously the low strings are going to create like a low drone sound. So in this tuning, I'm usually hitting that fifth string with my thumb, which is the G note. Sometimes you can hit the sixth string as well. So we go, each time your hand comes down, the thumb catches, and then on the up, you pluck the low string. So the bum-ditty pattern is down, down, up, down, down, up. So you're going to hit the strings with your index and middle, catch the low string with the thumb, but don't pluck the string the first time. So you have bum, and then ditty. So the second time, you pluck that low string. And the very first song I learned on clawhammer guitar, Little Sadie, that uses that pattern a lot. So listen to how the bum-ditty pattern fits into the melody of Little Sadie. So you have bum-ditty, bum-ditty, bum-bum-bum-ditty. And then I took the clawhammer guitar, I practiced that song a lot when I got home, and then I kind of created my own different rhythms that are a little more syncopated, and started writing songs using this style. So I kind of developed some different rhythms with the thumb hitting the low string at more of a syncopated, in more of a syncopated style. And from there, just started applying it to different songs and writing songs using that style. So Take the Journey is a song that I wrote with my friend Sarah Siskind, and when we started writing it, I was just playing in standard tuning with a pick, but I instantly heard the melody of the song was more modal, and I thought it could work really well with this modal tuning and clawhammer guitar. So we finished writing the song, I got home and started trying to play clawhammer guitar and fit it around the melody of the song. So I'll sing a verse of the song and then show how I kind of developed the melody on the clawhammer guitar. Cold, cold nights lead to cold, cold mornings. The road keeps going and it never seems to end. Lonely hearts that cry without warning when the light ain't shining around the bend. So then taking that melody and fitting it around the clawhammer guitar style, I came up with this. So that first line, we have a couple downstrokes in a row. And then I'm using a technique called drop thumb, where you drop your thumb down to one of the higher strings. Instead of hitting that low drone, you can create a more intricate melody by dropping the thumb down and using it for melody notes. So a lot of times on clawhammer, to create a more complicated melody or just learn a song with a quicker paced melody, we use a lot of hammer-ons and pull-offs and also the drop thumb. So that second part of the first line, I'm using a hammer-on and then dropping the thumb down to the second string. And then I slide up to the 5th fret and do another drop thumb line. And And then the second time I play that line, I do a variation with 2 pull-offs. So the song Sit Back and Watch It Roll uses the same tuning that I taught for the Clawhammer guitar, which is the open G tuning with the sus4 note in it to create like a modal sound. So I'm going to take off my capo for a second just to go through this open tuning without the capo on. So it's D, G, D, G, C, D. So it has that C note instead of the B note, which creates a modal, kind of ambiguous sound that doesn't have a third in it. So it's just root note and fifths and then a fourth in there. And I usually use that tuning on Clawhammer guitar. It's similar to a banjo tuning, but on Sit Back and Watch It Roll, I'm actually using a pick, and this one came about, I started writing this, I was just messing around with the guitar after kind of playing some Clawhammer guitar one day at my house. I had my guitar still in that tuning, and I was just playing around with it with a pick, and I came up with the main kind of riff of the song. That riff, and I was coming up with the harmony to the riff, and that became the melody to the actual song. So, falling through the looking glass, can the future save me from the past? And so that's the melody for the first couple verses, and then so it goes verse, verse, chorus, and then the third verse has a little bit of a different structure where I change the rhythm of the verse. So it goes. And then back to the chorus, and then the bridge of the song, I use some cross picking on. So on this flickering screen, come and go. Curtains fall on the final scene. Well, the lights come up and I'm on my own. Back to the chorus. Oh, where to go? The world moves by like a picture show. Gonna sit back and watch it roll. Don't know where to go. The world moves by like a picture show. Who was playing octave mandolin. And at the very end there's this breakdown with the, kind of a cross-picking thing. So on the high road off my new record, I'm playing without a pick. I'm using, just doing finger picking with 3 fingers. And I grew up playing 3-finger banjo as well, which I think made it a little easier for me when I wanted to start learning fingerstyle on guitar. But it is still a different technique. On the guitar, you kind of have these bass notes, that steady bass rhythm going instead of a more syncopated, like rolling sound, which you use on the banjo. So on the high road, I'm playing capo 3, playing at a G position, B flat, and I'll just play the riff or the solo that kind of I do throughout the song. And the riff for this song, it's kind of like a cross-picking riff, and it sounds a little banjo-y almost. And I like using the capo on this one so I can get all those open ringing strings when I use this this run on the song. So if I wasn't using a capo, I'd be having to bar a lot, and it just wouldn't have that flowy, open sound to it that I really like on this song especially. So the song starts off with just the guitar riff. Pinky held down the whole time, creating like a little high drone, which I think does give it a little bit of a banjo-y sound. On the banjo you would have that high 5th string there, and I'm playing like a A minor 7 chord, that other 7 up there too, and then going to the 4 chord, but keeping that open G string as well. So really the only notes I'm changing are, I'm keeping that sus 4 on the 5 chord, the G-shaped chord. Yeah, and then I start singing, so that's the opening riff, and it comes in and out throughout the song when you're ready. So on my song Light Came In, Power Went Out, the initial rhythm for this song came when I had just gotten an electric guitar from Collings, and I listened to a lot of like punk rock when I was a kid. I remember in middle school I listened to a lot of like Operation Ivy and Rancid, and at a rock band where we'd learn their songs and the rhythm was always like kind of like that, like really fast. So me and my friend Maya DeVitri were just playing around with my guitar at my house one day, and we came up with the chorus for Light Came In, and the rhythm that we kept playing was just that kind of like chugging rhythm. So then when we went to record it, I was working with Ryan Hewitt, who has worked with a lot of punk rock bands, and so he and I just both had that in common. So we thought it would be kind of cool to incorporate that in little ways here and there on the album, and this song was one that we thought that could be cool on. So throughout the song I'm kind of playing this rhythm a lot. Starts off with a drone, and then I come in with that. And I'm doing that on the chorus. I go, I can see it, I can see it now. The light came in when the power went out. I can feel it, I can feel it now. The love came in when the power went out. That's kind of the main place I'm doing that rhythm in the song. Other places I'm just playing diamonds or kind of doing a more like strummy rhythm. On the bridge, and then in between after the choruses, I am coming in with like a little solo part that goes along with what the electric guitar player is playing. So I'll just play a chorus and then go into the second solo that I do on this song. Well, I can feel it, I can see it now. The light came in when the power went out. I can feel it, I can feel it now. The love came in when the power went out. And it goes into the bridge from there.